Hey guys, it's Andy Coleman. I have a very special guest with me today. It's Michael Lucarelli, the CEO and founder of Rentspree. Michael, I'm so happy to have you. Why don't you just introduce yourself?
Thank you so much, Andy. First of all, I'm just so happy to be here. I've been a huge fan of yours, and I know that you've been working really closely sort of with our team and a big fan of our software for a really long time. So, yeah, I'm so happy to be here and really thankful that you're giving me the opportunity to kind of chat with you more in detail. Just a little bit about myself. In my 30s, founded this company around 8 years ago now. So it's been really exciting to see how we've been able to grow and kind of start from the very beginning with some of the building blocks of the company, Rentspree, and growing over time. It's been just super exciting to see how we've now just been growing our team quite a bit. So yeah, really excited today. Looking forward to chatting with you, Andy.
Yeah, well, thank you so much again for coming on here. So, yeah, for those of you guys that don't know, Michael founded Rentspree, like he said, about 8 years ago, and it's a credit background eviction report rental application service. It's my preferred service that I use for every one of my rentals that I've basically ever done. Michael had said before that I had helped them out, so I was on their board of advisors, and I did a lot of work with them to try to make their system even better. So that's first of all really awesome for a company to be listening to their users like that. So yeah, thank you even for letting me help you, refine your guys' systems.
Yeah, we really try to listen a lot to people, and I think that's something that we've always tried to do from the beginning is just like really be boots on the ground and like no matter what kind of service or product you're offering, you just need to be getting that feedback from whoever it is that's kind of like your client and whoever it is that you're trying to serve. So yeah, like just super valuable to take into account a lot of your information and just feedback. So yeah, that's awesome.
Well, very, very cool. So let's go back to the beginning then. So you said you started Rentspree about 8 years ago. How did this happen? How did you get the idea one day, like, oh, I'm just going to create a credit and background service company?
Yeah, so I think for me, it started from a renter perspective, first and foremost. So I'm actually from the East Coast originally. I know we talked about that. We're kind of like from roughly the same area in New York there, but started there. I ended up moving to California to go to business school. And of course, you get to a new place, first order of business, you got to find a place to live, right? So I got here, found this great apartment, this great landlord. And when I went to try and get the place, the landlord, he threw down a stack of papers in front of me, like, here, fill this out. And I'm sure this is like, somewhat familiar, Andy, for you, for what you've seen, like kind of in real estate over the years. But he threw down like a
Yeah.
stack of papers for the application. And my handwriting is terrible. So I had to kind of like scribble it, chicken scratch, fill it all out. But what surprised me was when I went to hand the papers back to the landlord, he goes, "Oh, no, no, you have to fax this back to my office." So I was
What the
like,
heck?
wait, like, hold the phone. Something's really wrong here. So that was like the first kind of clue that something was really kind of off with just kind of the tools that were available to handle these just simple processes out there. So that was kind of like the seed that planted it, and things kind of unfolded from there.
Okay, so you basically found a problem that you wanted to solve, so you got creative. And was there no, like, services that were doing this back then? Like, were you one of the first?
I think one of the things that we found out too was just that there are a lot of there's rental services out there. There's rental softwares out there. However, a lot of those softwares, when I started doing more research, right? Because I started like I got the seed, but that wasn't like the end all be all. There was a journey after that. So I started looking more into it and I started looking at data. And what I found was that actually a large proportion of the rentals in the US were being owned and managed by these mom and pop landlords. And they were really the ones that are underserved with software. So to put that into perspective, like there's management companies, property management companies, big apartment buildings, and there is software for them, but we found that there was a gap in the market for these kind of small mom and pop landlords, individual investors, things like that. So that's where there really wasn't much out there for them. So we did see that as an opportunity, a gap in the market. And it came from, like I said, just my own experiences and pain points as a renter. And then what really transformed a little bit further, and I don't know if you knew this about me, Andy, but I did end up getting my real estate license as well early
No,
on.
I did not.
So
No, I didn't know to talk about that. How did that happen?
yeah, and like full disclosure, I didn't go and do like a bunch of transactions. I wasn't like a top 1% agent or performer or anything like that. I really just got it when we founded the company. But again, it comes back to wanting to learn more about what we're trying to do and
Oh,
how it can solve the pain points. So I actually hung my license at a local Remax right kind of down the street here. And I would like sit with agents, watch them, shadow them, like anything that they wanted to do, I'd try to help them, go to their open houses. I'd be just kind of like really embedding myself into like what they were doing because I didn't really have that perspective. I had the renter kind of mindset, but I knew that we needed to really understand agents in a deep way. So that's where like even just at my real estate office, people didn't really talk much about rentals, but when I started kind of working with them, I actually saw like a lot of the most successful agents in my office, they actually worked with rentals so much. And so like it was like, all right, like that's interesting, but it was a weird kind of disconnect because those successful agents worked with rentals a lot, but there was again no tools. The broker didn't have any tools. They weren't supporting it at all. So that's where like we just started seeing more and more indications that there was a big opportunity to actually help with this process and that more agents than we thought were actually working with rentals as a significant part of their business. And as you know, there's lots of benefits to kind of working with rentals, and we can kind of talk about those things a little bit, but that's kind of how it went down at the beginning.
yeah. So I think that was super smart of you to put yourself in an agent's shoes because I mean, you're making a platform for an agent. So what better way to learn than become an agent yourself and then go and shadow the agents to see what they're doing on a day to day? But you're 100% correct because yes, most agents out there that are even listening to this right now, I'm sure at some point your broker, your mentor, your team leader, somebody has said, don't work with renters. It's a bad idea. It's not going to make you as much money as doing a house sale, which is true. But guess what? Just what Michael just said before, a lot of the most successful agents, it's kind of like their hidden secret, like their weapon that they keep in their back pocket. Like, if there's a bad market, it's not a buyer or seller's market or a really bad time to be a buyer, then guess what? People are going to be renting. Like right now in this market right now, it's a renter's market. So yeah, I think that you hit the nail on the head there that most of the successful agents, they have either started with rentals in their career, they're still doing them, and they use it as a tool to get by when the market's really poor, like it is right now. So that's how I, obviously, this, and most of my audience knows this. That's how I started my entire career. I started working with renters. I did it during the peak of the pandemic. It wasn't really a great market for a new agent. So I pivoted. I worked with renters and became the number two agent in the world for eXp Realty by doing so. So yeah, 100%, working with renters, in my opinion, is the way to go for any real estate agent out there. The majority of people right now, they want to rent, and most agents do not want to help them. So yeah, I think that's absolutely true. So okay, next question up. I don't want to talk about me too much. So when you started Rentspree, how long did it take to really like pick up steam, before you started marketing it and getting a lot of like users on your platform?
Yeah, I mean, it took a long time, and at the beginning, I remember that we had ups and downs, but a lot of them were downs at the beginning, and it's never a smooth journey for success. Like I think a lot of people say that, and for us, it was that. And basically, when we first started, we had to even pivot a couple times before we even like kind of got things right. So there was some moments when we, were like just kind of just worried about making ends meet. And when I started
Oh,
Rentspree too, I think one of the things that was really hard to do, but it was necessary in the end, is that I fully committed myself to working on Rentspree, and I didn't have really any other source of income. And when we started, I was really just getting a very, very, very small salary that barely even covered my own rent. And so I was like kind of dipping into some savings that I had. So it did take a long time to actually get the momentum going, but like I said, the only reason why we were able to do that is because I fully committed myself every single day, like nonstop, hitting on Rent Spree all the time, which I think is, for me, the only way that you can actually build a successful business, regardless of what kind of business it is. I really feel like you have to commit yourself to doing that and really eliminating some of the other distractions or not having like other side things that you're trying to work on at the same time. For some people that might work, But for me, I knew that if what I wanted to do and build something big, it never would have worked if I was like working on the side as doing something else or whatever. So it really kind of paid off by really focusing in on Rentspree from the beginning.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, all the most successful people always say this, exactly what you just said. Pick one thing and run with that. Like, you cannot be a jack of all trades. It's, yes, for some people it might work and you can make, a modest living doing so. But if you want to succeed at the highest level, you can't do that. You have to pick one niche. For Michael, it was rent spree. You know what I mean? For me, it was working on rentals as a real estate agent. Like, you have to pick one thing and just focus on that one thing. That's what you devote all your time to. So I had a question then. So it seems like you're an extremely hard worker. So I just like to know from me, because I busted my butt for the past few years working almost 16 hours a day to get to where I am. Did you have a similar journey? Like, how hard did you have to work? How long did you work?
Yeah, it wasn't even a consideration, especially at the beginning about, oh yeah, I'm gonna be starting and stopping at whatever time. I mean, we had some mentors that were helpful to kind of show us the way and learn a little bit at the beginning, especially. And they had a saying of, it was TNT, today, not tomorrow. And
Ooh.
that was like just the way that you can be really I don't mean to say like explosive, but like dynamic and just getting stuff done. And like, if you have something to do, just do it. Don't like kind of, all right, yeah, I'm hanging up the towel, like I'm just, it's 4 p.m., I'm gonna just go off and whatever. Like, that wasn't the case for us. So we were waking up early, working really quite a lot. I couldn't count the hours, but there was never like a 8-hour day at the beginning. And that's just the reality of it. It just depends what you want to do, right? If you want to do something like you're talking about, being great at something and building something big, focusing on that one thing. And you're going to have to be uncomfortable. You're going to have to stretch yourself. You're going to have to make sacrifices. And that's not for everyone. You don't have to do that. You can have a more comfortable job, something that's safer, but there's risks and there's trade-offs that you make when you try to do something that's different from others. And those are the things that you kind of have to give up when you're trying to do something that's different.
And it absolutely worked for you because you have one of the leading, credit and background services in America. So, take me through this then a little bit, because I know you said it's been about 8 years or so. So I always like asking, what was your income journey? So I know in the very beginning you said, you were paying yourself a modest salary, just enough to get by. I'm guessing 20 or 30 grand or so a year. Then how did that scale up over the years?
Yeah, it was a little bit less than that, but yeah,
Whoa.
it was yeah, so it was barely covering my rent, and it was a lot of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. It was a lot of,
Ramen,
just
right?
ramen,
Yeah.
just dollar menu stuff, So it was yeah, it was definitely interesting back then. But even now today, like, one of the things for us is that we're always trying to grow. And so even though I've been able to kind of build my own income, really what we're looking for is to bring on the best people. So there's plenty of people here that are earning more than me on our team, just because we want to bring on the best people. And so even today, there's still, obviously in a better situation than what I was, but there's still a lot of kind of sacrifice that we're making, because we're still in progress here. We're still growing. Like, I haven't really reached, the point where I want to be with the company and the growth trajectory that we have. Like, we're on a path to go IPO. And so there's still like these ongoing sacrifices that, we want to be making as we're going through, just in order to reach that level. So it's definitely in a better spot for sure, but there's a lot of sacrifice still to be made. And like, I think a lot of where my personal wealth is tied up is in the success of the company, right? That's for me why I do it. I'm not trying to take as much as I can in terms of like a salary from this. Like, we're trying to grow the company as big as possible, and we're trying to have a big outcome, and that's going to really benefit everyone that's involved with the company, because we offer basically stock options for everyone that's part of the company too. So that's really where all of the goals are aligned with what we're trying to do here at Rentspree, is build the company and get us to a point where we can achieve our vision to make things easier for renters to connect with their homes and agents and such, and then bring the company to a level of IPO. So there's ongoing sacrifices to do that. And even today, like a large proportion of my wealth and potential monetary outcome is tied up in the success of the company and making that happen.
Well, I know you're gonna make it happen. I mean, look at this, 8 years later, you're still sacrificing because I'm sure you could be bringing home hundreds of thousands, if not more, every single year if you wanted to. But you're saying, no, I don't want to do that right now. I want to put it back into the business. I want everybody else to grow. I mean, what you just said before that you're paying, some other, employees, and corporate, people for Rentspree more than yourself. That speaks volumes for the type of person that you are. That you're putting other people in front of you. You're putting the success of your company first, and that is super commendable. So, yeah, congrats to like staying strong, for this many years. That's incredible, and that's why you're gonna succeed because you have that kind of attitude. A lot of people do not. They would be buying the cars and the watches and the Gucci, suits and this and that and all the nonsense. But you're not doing it. And that's why you're going to be very successful. In my mind, you guys are the number one credit and background service, out there. That's me. I mean, do you have like a competitor in mind that you're like, I want to crush this company or they're doing better than us now, but not for long. Like, do you have that kind of like competition out there with another company?
I think that from that perspective, there's other companies, right, that do kind of screening and stuff like that and credit checks. But where I think makes Rentspree different is really like the fact that I believe that we do really look closely at who are the users of the Rentspree platform, and not just kind of catering to one of those, but providing a value add for everyone that's involved with these processes. And you know it, right, Andy? Like, you're an agent, you worked with renters, and you work with landlords. And those are kind of the three pillars that we look at Rentspree to be successful and to serve those people. And you might see it from an agent perspective, but like what we try to do really is also like cater to the renter, because we know that that's not only important to us but important to you as an agent. The more that we kind of try to support renters and give them a great experience, that benefits you and it benefits us. So like that's why when we do like the background check and the credit screening, like we don't ding the renter's credit score when they apply, and we just make it really easy for them to apply to multiple properties if they want to. We make sure that they have their data is kept secure, and we really emphasize that. So we try to provide a lot of benefits for the different parties that are involved in the process. And I think that's pretty different. I think a lot of the kind of other companies out there, they may just, oh, we're a tool for agents or we're a tool for landlords, but really, we really look at the other constituents that are out there and the stakeholders in the process. And I think another good example is we just launched our rent payment. Well, we've launched our rent payment feature a while back. And just recently, we launched a new feature that basically when renters are paying rent on Rentspree, again, it's like, okay, yeah, the landlord can get paid easily. The renter can make their payments recurringly on our platform with credit card or ACH. But we're actually also allowing the renter, if they choose to, they can actually have their rental payments being reported to the credit bureau. And that's obviously
Oh,
huge because that's the single largest expense that most renters have, but it doesn't get taken
yeah.
into account at all for those on-time payments you're making. Like for a mortgage, you're going to get that as a trade line on your credit report. You're going to get credit. It's going to actually boost your credit history and your credit score if you're making on-time mortgage payments. But renters don't enjoy that benefit. And so this is an
Yeah.
example of just the things that we do when we look at multifaceted kind of um, value that we can provide to the different users. And so it's like a win-win-win for everyone that we try to provide.
Yeah, I mean, just from the time I've been, using your guys' company, because I believe in the very beginning when I started, I was using, I can't remember what company I was using in the beginning. Then I found Rentspree. And I just remember being like, this is a breath of fresh air. Like, this is easy for me. My all my tenants, my renters are like, this was easy to fill out. It only took me, 5 or 10 minutes. It was very fast, very easy. So I stuck with you guys and, didn't want anything in return. And, eventually you reached out and you're like, oh, well, you're our number one user. Can you, give us advice on what, renters are looking for. So like just that whole aspect alone of all my renters coming to me and being like, this is just easy. I've never had any complaints. Like nobody said, oh, well, this was too complicated. This didn't work. That didn't work. Like none of that stuff. So I think like you're really doing something correct, in that regards because you're listening to people's feedback, and just like you said, you're adding feature after feature. Like I know you have Rentspree Pro, which I didn't even know about Rentspree Pro up until Adam told me like a year ago. He was like, "Oh, we have Rentspree Pro, and now you could upload your proof of income and your driver's license and then this and then that." And I'm like, I didn't even know that. So you like created an all-in-one tool where the agent, the renter, even the landlord, they can all just come to one spot and then they can get everything that they need just in one location, which I think in this like, digital world where we have so many choices, so many options, so much is going on, I think that's super important to like, really centralize and localize everything that you need for a renter in one particular place. So who's like, did that happen overnight or like, was this like a slow work in progress?
I think for me, and like some of it too that I want to really clue in on is like putting everything in one place is important, but the other thing that's really important is just simplifying it and making it really, really easy. Not only for someone like you, who you're busy, you have God knows how many hundreds or thousands of things going on for yourself every week, but for the renters too, where you're kind of really relying on the renter being able to do this task quickly and easily. And so simplifying it for you and simplifying it for your client is really kind of important. And so we did know that really early on that we were focusing on making this process very simple. And that's where I was lucky to have my co-founder, Paul, who's very user kind of experience oriented, to really think carefully about, okay, if I was going to be doing this, how would I feel? And putting yourself in the shoes of whoever's going to be kind of using your software and thinking about, okay, well, this is really weird, this experience, it's not optimal. I would be like, what, WTF if I saw this like process? Well, maybe you should fix it and make it better. So I think we always had that kind of mindset to really simplify it. And that's why we're always looking, like even just for the renter, when the renter has to fill everything out, how can we just streamline that and make it as easy as possible? And we're always working to improve those things, like just consolidating questions, streamlining it, improving the design. So we're looking at those type of things on a continuous basis to make sure that we can really simplify it. And ultimately, that results in a lot of benefits for sure.
Yeah, because streamlining there, making sure that there's no, complicated steps or anything where it's just, like fill this out, fill that out, fill that out, press submit, pay, done. Like, I mean, that's basically, what it is. I mean, I think I did I tested it out one time on myself, and I just remember it being so simple. And one thing too, where I know you touched on before, I don't want to forget about this. So anybody that uses, Rentspree, they can actually copy and paste the application and use it for multiple properties. That's personally what I really, really love. It's so easy to just download the report. It's not tied to like one particular property or address or anything like that. And you can literally use it for, because listen, at the end of the day, depending on where you are, let's say you're in, LA, and maybe it's very competitive right now, and or like South Florida over here, Miami area, wherever you are, it's competitive. So you might not get accepted to a property. There might be 5 or 10 other people applying for the same property. So the ability to be able to download the report and then use it for multiple properties, I think that's huge. And that's been a big help to me as an agent to convince clients to work with me because, listen, at the end of the day, if they have, other agents that are like, all right, I want you to fill out my application, but they have like, 5 or 10 properties and different agents saying, do my application, do this, do that for me. I've had people, tenants tell me they're spending hundreds of dollars on multiple applications. And I said, why are you doing that? Why didn't you just come to me? We use Rentspree, I copy and paste it. It's 38 bucks, one time only, and I can fire it out to as many places as you want. And once I tell them that, they're like, "Oh, I didn't know that. Nobody told me that." Like it's shocking to me how easy you guys made this to where you don't have to do multiple applications. So I want to talk about this a little bit because you guys are in my MLS. Which ended up probably just being a crazy coincidence. It's Beaches MLS or Flex MLS, whatever they call it these days. How did you guys get into our MLS? And are you in more MLSs?
Yeah. So we work with it's over 60 MLSs that we integrate with, like all across the country. And, like, again, this just comes back to really just digging in and getting our hands dirty and learning. And that was back kind of even going back to the days when I was just in the office watching agents. It sounds silly probably to your listeners here, but I'm like, MLS, like, what's that? What's the big deal? And then you just hear like talking, and like our local MLS is CRMLS, California Regional Multiple Listing Service, which happens to be the largest MLS in the country. And so
Whoa.
again, it's just me really committing and putting in the hours, sitting where I needed to be, learning from who I needed to learn from, and hearing so many agents. Obviously, the MLS is a critical tool that you use in order for you to be marketing and to run your business and effectively grow, right? You need that. And so I also kind of clued in on that without having experience, but it's obvious now. But hearing so many agents interact with the MLS, especially with their rentals, and really just reached out to California Regional Multiple Listing Service, our local MLS. I'm like, hey, we have this like rental tool. Do you want to like partner together? Maybe we can help offer this to agents, because I see that it's a value add. And obviously, it's free to agents. So it's free to agents. It saves their time, reduces their liability, makes things easier for their rentals. And so we just saw it as a huge opportunity where we can provide more value in a more convenient way. And actually, like, even on a deeper note, Andy, it comes back to, we started seeing agents that were in my local market. You know how you get the apply link and you share it with renters, right? We
Yeah,
started
yeah.
seeing agents would actually go to Rentspree, copy the apply link, and they would actually put it into a private or agent remarks section in their MLS manually. So that's
Oh.
also where I clued in, where it's like, hey, people are trying to kind of embed this into the MLS and use it as, okay, you're going to add your rental listing. Put the link there so that if there's other agents that are seeing your listing, or even in some cases, consumers might see that link, it can be, funneled through the right way. They can really just apply easily. So we started seeing these things converge, and that's where we clued in that the MLS would be great. So we started working with Florida. We work with a bunch of different MLSs in Florida now too, but it's been really successful, and we love working with the MLSs, and it's been huge for us.
So is your goal to get into every MLS like in the whole entire country?
Yeah, pretty much. And I think for the MLSs as well, you probably know this, but a lot of the MLSs, they've really been focused predominantly on for sale transactions and for sale listings. And so that's a big thing for them, which is that we already kind of established that rentals are important for agents to work on, and they can be really valuable for agents. And so one of the other things that we do is making sure that the MLS can also cater to these needs and these behaviors that agents have, which is that they're working with rentals more and more. And so by us integrating with all these MLSs, we're actually making the MLSs better at handling rental listings and providing more value add rental tools when it comes to those things, which like we said, most of the time MLSs, they're really just like designed and focused on for sale listings, but that's just part of the puzzle for a lot of people. And so we try to bring the other constituents of the industry up to speed when it comes to actually working with rentals. And we just launched with one
Yeah.
key MLS too in New York, so that's exciting too.
That's very exciting. Yeah, I mean, I foresee you guys being, the go-to service for every MLS. I think, because how long ago did you start, trying to pitch this to MLSs? Like, was this recent, like a couple of years ago?
It was in 2017 is when we partnered with CRMLS, so it was a while back. And I think that's another key point, because again, like, I didn't have any experience whatsoever in the industry, like I've mentioned. And I kind of gained that. And I think a lot of people, they may be hesitant to reach out or hesitant to try things or hesitant to just pick up the phone and call someone. And I didn't have that hesitancy. And that's the only way that we were able to learn and make inroads. And hey, if we tried something that I was tried something that maybe I wasn't super comfortable with and it didn't work out, well, you just learn and you move on, but you learn from the mistake. But I was just willing to just dive in there. What are these MLSs? Seems like it could be cool. Let me just pick up and like start reaching out to them. And so that's also, I think, really important, is that you're not always going to be comfortable with every single thing that you're doing. You need to stretch yourself and get out of your comfort zone. And that's the only way to learn a lot of the time. And you can listen to people and try to just pick up skills all you want, but a lot of it just comes from diving in there and doing it yourself.
I always like to say trial and error. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, you have to fail in order to succeed. And actually, you're probably going to fail 90% of the time, and only 10%, is success. It's just part of the journey, and it's problem solving. I think succeeding at the highest level means you're just an advanced problem solver, and you just have that kind of attitude where you're okay to get out of your comfort zone and think outside of the box and try new things. And I think that's amazing. Obviously, to be a risk taker as well, because in my mind, you're a pioneer. You created a company where you felt there was a gap in the market, there was a necessity for something, and you came out there and you created something. And bravo to that. I mean, I think that's absolutely phenomenal that you did that. And I know you have a lot of passion for the company itself. So now, just talk a little bit about MLS is saying no. I'm just curious. Do they tell you no a lot? Like, if you're making these phone calls, are they saying like, nope, sorry, I don't want to do it?
That's pretty rare. That's pretty rare, just because like the way that we've designed our tool, right? It's free for agents. So it's like,
Yeah.
you want to offer something that's free for agents, going to save their time, reduce their liability, and just make your MLS better at handling rentals. So we don't get no that much. What I can say is that, and maybe it's just how I hear it too, maybe they say no, but what I hear is like, oh, not right now. Or so I'll like always kind of like, I guess you kind of keep them in the database, right? You kind of keep them slow, kind of like on the back burner sometimes, where it's like, hey, not right now. We're not really focusing on this, or, oh, check in with us next year. And like, I'll do that. And so there are MLSs, like these are who kind of we're going after as our prospects and clients. So I have that same mindset. Like, we have our CRM and we look at, who we're trying to kind of interact with and what we're trying to do from a goal perspective. And yeah, some might say no, or some might say not right now, but it's just, sometimes it's a time game, and you just kind of, make little just contact once in a while, see them in person from time to time at little events. And there's MLSs that we've been doing that with it took like 4 years of that before it
Wow.
came to fruition. And hey, like, they've gotten done. And so I always like see it as never like a failure, but it's always like, hey, like, all right, let's leave it. We'll check in like in 6 months or a year from now, and we'll see how it is. And a lot of that kind of pays off. And I think there's so many parallels to just when we're in real estate, right? How we think about our clientele and our client base, and just being persistent, and just thinking about how you can be value add as well to the people that you're trying to reach out to.
Oh, follow-ups. Yeah, I mean, follow-ups are so crucial. And, I don't know if you knew this, but I started coaching agents now on rentals, basically. And I think I've done almost 50 to 60 calls. I got to go back and look. But one of the key things that agents don't do, because in my teachings, I teach about follow-ups, and they're like, oh, I don't follow up. I never do it. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, you can add, 20 to 30% to your business just by doing follow-ups. Or just like you said, you can, follow up 6 months later, a year later, and then eventually 4 years later, boom, you get the deal. You know what I mean? So like, I think that's huge, that just most people in general, any entrepreneur, it's follow-ups, and it shows people that you care too, that you're actively paying attention. You know what I mean? So I think that's phenomenal. So I'm really curious. So you don't have to answer this, but I want to talk about revenue. So, how much can you just talk about? I don't know if you want to. How much revenue, Rentspree is bringing in as a whole, as a company per year? Could you just take me through that over the last, like few years as you guys have grown?
Yeah, so I think when we talk about from a revenue perspective, one of the things that we look at pretty closely is not necessarily just the absolute revenue, but we look at our growth rate. And we've been really lucky that we've been really kind of in a state of hyper growth since we launched. And we've been growing so much. And like one of the things that I'm really proud of from our team is that we were on the Inc. 5000 list of fastest growing private companies for the past 2 years. And we would have been even before that if we applied and knew about it. But it's been really exciting to see how we have been able to grow. And like on the recent one, for instance, we grew about 600% over the past 3 years. So it's
Whoa.
really kind of exciting to see how we've grown. And, another thing that we haven't kind of mentioned much here either is that from the growth rate and the success that we've been able to establish, um, we made a decision also around, I think it was 2019 or so, to open up to external investors. And so we've been also, through showing a track record of growth, been able to bring on investment from venture capital companies that have been able to help us even turbocharge that further. And really, just when we find the things that are working, we can invest more in those things and invest more in those areas by bringing on this external investment to grow the company even faster. So it's been really exciting to see that. And we're like always looking at how we can grow faster. And like, I think revenue is important and everything like that. But in the end of the day, like we've it's no coincidence that for a lot of this, we've talked about getting to know the pain points, understanding users, trying to provide them with a good experience. That's still the thing for me that I feel like is the important thing to focus on. And then the rest of it kind of sorts itself out, in my opinion. I think, yeah, you do need to make smart business decisions. You need to think about what you're getting for your services, how much you're charging. But I think if you really focus on delivering value and understanding the user and empathizing with them and helping them in something that's important, that I think is the really core thing. And then the rest of it kind of comes. I think if you come in and you're just like, oh, how can I make money? How can I earn the most income? Like, I think that. I don't think it's going to work as well as if you just start focusing on providing value from the get go.
Yeah, 100% agreed there. Even in my mind, I can't remember exactly, but in the beginning of my real estate journey, it was about the money for me. Like I didn't, love real estate in the beginning, and I was thinking about, how much money can I make? And then all of a sudden, that just goes out the window, and I just started caring about the people. I tried to provide the best service possible, and I just worked as hard as I possibly could. Once I did that, among changing a few other things, all of a sudden my business exploded. Like it's almost as if, you put aside, your thoughts on money, and then as a consequence, it comes to you. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep. I think that's true. And
Yeah.
like, it's not to say that you can't have goals, right? Like, you can still want to achieve something, but I think it just depends on like really what you're obsessing over every day, which it shouldn't just necessarily be the bottom line. It should be, okay, how can I actually deliver value to people? And I personally get so excited, like when I speak with any agent or renter or landlord that has used our service. Like that's really what makes me happy, is when I can see, or like even an MLS that's like, oh, I love this. And just like every time I hear you say how you think Rentspree is really awesome, like that's what makes me happy, like in the end of the day. So that's what motivates me, to kind of get up every morning, because you're providing value to people.
Now, did you always have this kind of mindset and mentality growing up? I know you have to go soon. How much longer do you have?
Maybe a minute or two.
Okay, so let's wrap it up right now. Did you always have this kind of mentality? I always like to ask successful entrepreneurs, CEOs, founders, uh, were you born this way, or like, how did you get this mindset?
I think when I was younger, and this kind of goes back to, I know you said that you're from kind of the New York area, right? So, um, my family has some entrepreneurial kind of blood. So my family actually worked, kind of like in like upholstery and furniture, like stuff like that. Some carpentry. And so, like, just I remember being with my grandpa and kind of just going around and seeing like the clients that he worked with, and just like they were so like happy about the work that he did, always referring like to other people. And I would just go around when he did deliveries. And so seeing that and seeing the impact that it made. And that's what led to the success for even just, and that's a really small scale thing, right? It wasn't like anything big, but it's just a small family business. But just seeing how it impacted people and how people were happy with the work and the quality that was done, that's what I think, yeah, it really did influence me to want to bring that value to people that they need it, give them like something that they're really excited about. They're referring it to people, they want to come back to you. So that's where it came from for me.
That's incredible. Yeah, I mean, I had a similar, story. I'm not gonna bore you with the details now, but yeah, similar. I think, having it in your blood like that and then being around it at a young age, it kind of just motivates you and propels you forward to do your own thing. A lot of people, like you mentioned in the beginning, some people don't like this because it's a lot of hard work, it's a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. It's not like easy, like working a regular 9 to 5 job. In my mind, because I've been there and done that as well, I think that is much easier and a much safer route. So you were very brave to start your own company and do your own thing and grow such a successful service, because I know that you were talking about an IPO. And guys, once this hits, anybody listening right now, trust me, jump on it immediately. It's going to be wildly successful. You do not want to miss that. And let me know, if you need anything from me at all, you know what I mean, because I'm here to help.
Thank you so much, Andy. And again, really appreciative of you and just having your support just over the years. And you've just been really amazing and just giving all the useful feedback to our team. So you're a great guy. I'm so happy that I had the chance to talk with you and look forward to chatting with you more in the future. But thank you so much.
Absolutely, Michael. Well, thank you so much again for coming on here. Everybody, like and subscribe and drop a comment below. Let me know what you thought. And that's about it. And I'll catch everybody in the next one. All right. Bye.